We have been in a series of hard questions and hard answers. And the hard questions have been hard questions. And the hard answers are answers that we get, but they're not too easy to accept. And I think that one of the hardest answers that I've realized is a part of life and faith is that we all have to be fish. That we have to be fish. Nemo. That we have to be fish. I've used this illustration before, and I hope it's incredibly valuable for me. It's encouraged me, and I hope I say it again because I hope it's encouraging you, that fish are good illustrations for faith. How do you know if a fish is dead or alive? Maybe you look into an aquarium, maybe your own, maybe a friend's, maybe at the pet store. How do you know if a fish is dead or alive? And you think, well, I know if it's dead or alive when it's on my plate. Very funny. But how do you know if it's dead or alive? Well, one way to tell is if it's moving around the tank. But maybe there's a current in the tank. Maybe there's a water pump, and so the water pump is doing it. So you kind of have to look a bit closer than that. It's not as obvious as you might expect. So you look closer at that fish, and I'm not going to use Nemo because I like him. And so you look at that fish and you say, is that fish dead or not? I can't really tell. Do I flush him yet? And the fish, if it twitches, if it moves, even just a little bit, it's proof that that fish is alive. And if there's life, then there's hope. I think this proof that we can see through this simple illustration is that life requires struggle. And that struggle is a part of life. And I think that is really difficult to accept. There's this illusion that somehow we grab onto when we're coming into faith, that somehow a good life with God is a life without struggle. That this is the illusion, and it truly is an illusion. It's a Cinderella story, so to speak. But I want to challenge that. I don't think that's true. And in fact, I also want to challenge my own illustration of Cinderella. Because when you think about it for a minute, think about the Disney version of Cinderella. Does she just sit back and wait for some handsome prince to come sweep her off her feet? No. She is a wrestler. She is a struggler. She is in a terrible situation. She is being brought into wrongful servitude to her stepmother and her stepsisters, and even to a cat that ironically named is Lucifer. And she struggles against her situation, and she struggles against these people that are oppressing her, and she struggles against all of her reality, and she holds on to hope. And that hope is in her dreams. It is in the way that she takes on the world, and how she faces each challenge. The hope is exemplified in that dress from her mother's that she holds on to. And in her hope is that struggle, that wrestling, is also when that opportunity comes to go to a ball, she grabs at it. She struggles for it. And she does everything she needs to do to prepare for that situation. And even though she gets pulled down and that struggling doesn't achieve what she wants, she continues to struggle. But what does come through is that there's an external supernatural assistance, and then you got the prince that loves her so much, after meeting her for one dance, then comes and happily ever after. But this woman, she's a struggler, and that's what makes her story. So we can't be saying Cinderella's story is the simple damsel in distress. No, she's a tough cookie. She's great. She's fantastic. That C.S. Lewis, he says this. He says, a life with God is not immunity from difficulties, but peace within difficulties. That's what he observed. I think he's onto something. One area that I see that we often have difficulty struggling in is just as a one manifestation of struggling is in church. And I'm not talking about a program, because church is hard. Attending a program isn't really, but being a part of a church community is hard, is difficult, and it takes struggling. And I think that's the point. I think that's what Jesus had in mind when he said, I will draw all people to myself, that every language, tribe, tongue, and people, that I will bring all these people into this one space because of my name, and you're going to be a part of it, and they're going to be a part of it, and you're going to learn to get along. Oh, Jesus, he's funny. I think we need to swim, and we need to swim together. And both swimming and swimming together, it requires a learning that only comes through experience and through struggling, through wrestling with these things. So, for instance, to be a part of a church program, you come in, you sit there, maybe you wrestle internally with the music. Okay, that's one thing. But to be a part of a church community means that you're coming up against people with different ideas than you have, that you don't know if you agree, and so you don't know how to interact with them. Maybe you're in a discussion group or a Sabbath school, or you're a part of a committee, or you're talking with someone after church, when we're in person, or maybe on a one of the, just an interaction with somebody, and you don't know what to think about their beliefs or their thoughts, or something they say kind of offends you a bit, and you don't know what to do with that. Well, to come closer together, it is difficult, and what's easier, the not wrestling option, would be to just, okay, well, peace out. I don't want to talk to that person ever again, because I don't know what to do with their thoughts. Sometimes we have ideas in our own mind, what we believe, but we have a foundation for them that's based on maybe it's just what our parents told us. We haven't wrestled with it ourselves, and so anything that kind of challenges it kind of scares us, because we don't want it to fall apart, because this is what we believe. And there's these triggers that we have when we're around other people with different personalities, and to be all in the same space. It's part of what this is, that church is meant to be this space of learning to swim together. And how do we do that? It takes time. I know that some people have gotten into the habit, and it's a very sad habit in my opinion, especially as a pastor, that they'll come into a church community and something will rub them the wrong way, and they'll maybe it won't be the first Sabbath, maybe it'll be a couple weeks, maybe they're here, they're in the church for about a month or two or something, but then someone says something, and they I can't believe they would say that to me, and it was wrong what they said. It was wrong what that person said. It was offensive. It was mean, or it was thoughtless, and then the person, I'll just go to another church, and so they just go to another church, and then at that church something else happens, and they well, this isn't the church for me. Lord, lead me to the right church. And he does. He continues to lead, but they continue to leave. And they never get to know what it's like to be with people that they don't have an immediate natural connection with, that think the same way they do. They don't know how to be in relationship with people, to persevere, to struggle through their own thoughts, through understanding someone else and maybe not coming to the same conclusion, but to be in relationship with these people takes time and it takes struggle. And this is what the church is put together for. And it's around Christ, and he is our center. And so to wrestle through that, they never fully get to be a part of a church community because they're somehow their belief is that they shouldn't have to wrestle through conflict. There is this is something that I'm trying to wrestle through myself right now. This concept. It's not until we actually resist, not until we actually try and push through this wave that's coming at us, do we really feel the wave at all. If you've ever been, standing in the ocean, or if you've gone surfing, you don't know the full power of a wave of water or of a current until you try and fight against it. If the wave just pushes you, you feel its power, okay, or it can actually move you towards the shore, but you never fully understand how strong that wave is until you push against it and you push through it to the other side. Because it's not until after the wave do you see just how much it's been keeping you from getting further. Go further out, further in. Like you don't know, you don't feel, you don't understand how much it's been keeping you back. That trigger, that whatever you've been wrestling or not wrestling against. If you don't fight against your feelings, you won't have that clarity of what's actually been triggering you that whole time. If you give in to that pressure, every time the pressure builds up against you, then you'll never know how to stand up against that foe for yourself or for others. And you won't be able to encourage them and say, just keep going, because you never have. And that's a hard thing. That's a very hard thing. That struggle is essential. If you don't persevere through the struggle, how will you see how God gives you the victory through it? Because you've never decided, I'm going to go through it. There's some stories in this book right here, this amazing book, that have really meaningful application for struggle. And I think about the story of Ruth, the story of this woman who lost her husband, and the kind of external struggles that she had with that, and internal struggles of feelings of loss, but then she also had to struggle against the ethnic prejudices that were against her by going to Israel and to be among this people that really does hate her people. And then also on top of that, to then be working as a day laborer, gathering wheat behind the workers, the scraps that are left behind, and doing that all day long just so she can get a few handfuls of food for her and for her mother-in-law. And then to come back home and her mother-in-law says, "Call me Mara, call me bitter." There's a lot of wrestling going on there. There's a lot of struggle. But Ruth, she perseveres, she struggles through all those situations, even against her own identity, I think. And God comes through in this amazing way. Through her struggle, God works on her behalf, and she is connected with her kinsman redeemer. And then she has this, I think that's a more realistic Cinderella story. It's very similar to the fact that this woman, she's tenacious and she perseveres and she struggles. There's also a story so the Ruth story is found in the book of Ruth. There's a story about a woman that's found in Luke chapter 8 and Matthew chapter 9. She was bleeding for 12 years, and she had spent all of her money on doctors to heal her, and none of them could. She exhausted, she struggled to get healed and never got it until she went to Jesus. And when she went to Jesus, he healed her. He says, your faith has made you whole. She reached out, touched the edge of his garment. She just wanted that little tiny connection to Jesus, and she knew that would heal her, and it did. And she went to everything else first. And her wrestling, her struggling, proved that no other way could heal her, but that Jesus could. And it exonerated what Jesus was able to do because of her wrestling. And even her wrestling against her own identity and her false sense of self-worth, that Jesus then turns around and he lifts up. It's a beautiful story, so please read that for yourself in Luke 8 or Matthew 9 if you don't know it. Then there's a story about a man that he has no use of his legs. He's laying by this pool that's supposed to have some sort of magical properties. They think it's one of those rumors, and he's by this pool, and he's laying there for 38 years, hoping to be healed from so he could walk. And Jesus comes up to him after hearing that he's been in that place for 38 years, and he says, and they have an exchange in John chapter 5, the book of John chapter 5, and then Jesus tells him, pick up your mat that you've been laying on and walk. And this man who had over the 38 years given up his hope, given up his hope that he would ever be healed, then gets up. He gives up and then he gets up. And that little act of getting up is a huge struggle for him. To pretend like he even has a little bit of hope is a huge step for him. It's a huge wrestling. It's a huge struggle. But that struggle, to what we think is a little struggle, for him it was huge, and he struggled and he was healed and he had the victory. And then Jesus himself, Paul says in, I think it's Hebrews chapter 12, he says, have you resisted unto blood? Talking about temptation. Jesus, he said in the Garden of Gethsemane, while he was facing the cross and he didn't want to go through with it, and he said, but not my will, Father, but your will be done. And so he wrestled with his own self so much that the sweat, he ran out of water in his body and he began to sweat blood. I mean, that kind of excruciating wrestling is the wrestling that Jesus did. And he's the one that gained the victory, and then gives us the victory. It's interesting. The person that not one person can really understand the full weight of sin, because at some point we've always given in. We've always let the wave carry us to shore. We've always given in and given up. But Jesus is the only one that fully knows the force of sin, because he's the only one that's fully gone all the way through it, and yet without sin. And we have in Hebrews chapter 4, Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15 and 16. It says, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Isn't that beautiful promise? There's another version, contemporary English version, and it reads like this. Jesus understands every weakness of ours because he was tempted in every way that we are, but he did not sin. So, whenever we are in need, we should come bravely before the throne of our merciful God. There we will be treated with undeserved kindness, and we will find help. What an incredible promise is that. That's the contemporary English version. Can I be direct with you? The scariest, the most dangerous thing, I think, is when we don't know that struggling is a part of life. That struggling is not a part of the life that God has set out in front of us to walk in. Because if we don't think that struggling is a part of it, when we do face challenges, when we do experience struggle, then somehow we think, well, am I forsaken by God? Am I on the wrong path? Do I need to, is God with me still? And we begin we're disappointed. We lose hope. We feel like that there is something else we should be doing because I'm having to struggle and I don't think this should be. And in fact, we can lose our faith in pushing forward that God is with us and actually pushing through those struggles. Or we can become fatalistic and stop making decisions for ourselves and expecting God to come in and intervene with things that we can do for ourselves. God will not do things for us that we can do for ourselves. He won't. In each one of these situations, God does not, each one of these stories in Scripture, God does not do things that we can do for ourselves. The man by the pool of Bethesda, he had to get up. Would he have been healed if he refused to get up when Jesus told him to? No. And would the woman would she have been healed if she didn't reach out towards Jesus? Would Ruth have met Boaz if she had stayed in her house or stayed, just going, oh, I can't believe the situation that I'm in, and had done nothing to actually move to struggle against the forces that were around her, of staying inside instead of fear or out of fear or something like that. I'm trying to think what to do next. This is this little book, really cute little book that I have that is written. It has quotes from Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, and I'm enamored with his story and his character, and I really value what he had to say. So he says this: confronting our feelings and giving them appropriate expression always takes strength, not weakness. It takes strength to talk about our feelings and to reach out for help and comfort when we need it. If we recognize that we have an issue with anger, if we are giving into our temper, we have to wrestle against that. It's not just going to get up and walk away someday. To then we have to say, there's an issue here and I need to fight against it. Otherwise, what's going to be the consequence? We'll be experiencing that the rest of our lives. There are two things that are eternal in life. There is other people that other people that we bring into relationship with God. They are eternal, and our characters, our character that is eternal, and that's the work that's put in our hands to bring people into relationship with Jesus, that they can trust him, that they can persevere through these struggles with him by their side, clinging to him every step of the way. And then to recognize in ourselves the things that are breaking our own relationship with God, or relationship with other people, or our relationship with ourself. These things that are breaking, that are destructive to our own personhood. He has another statement here that I really resonated with. He says, there is no normal life that is free from pain. It's the very wrestling with our problems that can be the impetus for our growth. That the wrestling with are the things that cause us pain. Those are the things that will bring us growth. It's not wrestling against, well, they said this and I want to do that. It's not wrestling because we're stubborn. It's wrestling against our stubbornness. When somebody else has an issue and we're having, it's something to do with me that I need to get over. I need to figure it out. I need to understand what is keeping me from moving forward in my life, and I need to wrestle with that. We are to do the wrestling, and God gives us the victory. It is both. God won't do for us what we can do for ourselves, and this is something that we must do in our experience. Ellen White, she asserts this, and I thought it was so potent. A religious experience is gained only through conflict, through disappointment, through discipline of self, through earnest prayer. That is our faith experience, is these wrestlings through these things, through these disappointments, through these conflicts with self and with each other, to understand these things and to move forward in them. The reality is, my friend, the reality is that every person on this planet struggles. They are either struggling against self and the things that will destroy them from the inside out, and the relationships that they have with other people and with God, or they're struggling against the consequences from their own actions, the times when they've given in and just let those feelings or those reactions just carry them away, or they're struggling on someone else's behalf to right a wrong that's being done against somebody else. And these are the areas that we each struggle in, and we need to embrace them. And we have to be okay with struggling. We have to just keep swimming. To just keep swimming and just keep moving forward. This is proving life, that when we are moving and it is essential. It is essential to our relationship with God and with each other. I want to conclude this time together with a special prayer for you. There are 3 things I'm going to pray about, and maybe one or all of them your experience right now especially resonates with. And I want to pray for one, I want to pray for your struggle against self. 2, I want to pray against the struggle against the consequences that you've experienced when you didn't struggle against self and self took over and had got a little tiny victory there. And I want to pray for your struggling for someone else. I know that you have somebody in mind that has been on your heart, that has weighed you down, and you've been asking God to move in their lives. I want to pray for these things in your life. May I do that? Will you pray with me during this prayer? Our merciful Father in heaven, I'm asking that you be with my friend here, that you move in their life, that you move in their faith experience, in their review of what you two have gone through together, and that they see those times of struggling as times when you were pleased, that you were excited about the life that you saw in them. And I don't know if they're still struggling, or maybe they've given up struggling, but God, I pray that you give them new life, that you give them that encouragement to wrestle, to struggle against self, those things, pride or envy, unforgiveness, malice, lust, the selfishness, these things that have been eating them up, have been destroying, killing them, and killing their relationships with other people. God, I pray that you give them that little bit of twitch, that fight against these things, that you help them in their struggle against these things of self, that you give them that victory that you promised. I know this from Scripture, that you who began a good work in them will carry it on to completion in your day, in the day of the Lord Jesus Christ. I know that you're the one that works in them to will and to do your good pleasure. I know that they must struggle and work out their own salvation with their whole self invested in it. And Lord, I lift them up to you in their struggle against self. Father, I also lift up my friend in their struggle against the consequences from their bad decisions, that they're the times when they've given in, when they've given up, and the things that have happened as a consequence to those things. God, I pray that as you've promised in your word, that we can come to your throne and you will give us undeserved kindness, that you know our hearts and you already know everything we've already done, that you are working in our lives, and that you see these things, and that we can come boldly to your throne, knowing that you will give us a new start, a new victory, a new way forward as we continue to struggle against these things. That they have hope. Remind them that they have hope. Encourage them, Father. Put your loving, strong arms around them, that you uphold them by your righteous right arm. And Father, I pray for the struggle that they have in prayer and in worry on behalf of the people in their lives that they love, that they are concerned about, that you uphold them in this wrestling, this struggle of asking you to move on behalf of this loved one that's in their mind right now. God, you are the one that in fact loves that individual more than they do. You made them, and you're redeeming them, and you're working on their behalf as they pray to you. Remind them of that confidence that they have, that this name is before your throne, and you are setting things up to move for their benefit, and that their prayers are being heard on high. Thank you for this promise, and I ask that you continue to encourage them in this wrestling. Maybe it's a prayer that they've given up a long time ago. Father, I pray that they struggle to pick that back up and to move forward with that prayer that they've lost hope on. Father, thank you for being the God that is ever present with us, the God that is with us in our strugglings, that understands our strugglings, and because you sent your Son to live this life with us and to get the victory and to give it to us. Father, thank you for this promise. Through your Son, Jesus, we claim it and we'll move forward with it. We'll hold on to it tightly, knowing that you are working on our behalf as we are struggling forward. I ask these things in Jesus' eternal, precious, and personal name. Amen. This is my prayer for you. Continue struggling. Just keep swimming. God bless you.